Hi, guys. Welcome to All the Fails. Today we are here with Dr. Oren Tepper, my plastic surgeon and very good friend, kindred spirit, really amazing guy who just did my boobs. Oren, welcome to the show.
Thank you. This is
welcome
fun.
to the show.
Doing this.
So I want to talk to you, Oren. I want to let's go back a little bit first before we get into fails that I have on my body and things that we've changed about me. I want to talk about, I guess before I knew you, we met in what year was it? Was it 2014?
2000, summer 2014.
Right. And we were on our way to Nantucket.
On the way to Nantucket.
With
new babies.
Tiny babies. And you stopped us on the plane.
Well, I had known Jason.
You said, hi, Jason. I'm friends with Duran.
Well, I'd known Jason from back in the day.
Yes.
We have mutual friends.
Yeah.
You're now brother-in-law and his close friend and my close friend from college. So I had known Jason for years. And then we had lost touch.
Okay.
And then you guys had moved to New York.
Yes.
And we had both been starting our new families together and living downtown. And found each other on our way to Nantucket.
But nobody put us in touch. Were they trying to keep us apart?
Fate put us in touch.
Yeah, but why did Duran not connect us?
Exactly.
It's almost as if he didn't want us to meet.
And he's still bitter about it. But I don't even talk to Duran anymore. But you guys have become close.
That's by design. Right. I'm just kidding. Yeah. So and then we became close friends. You had a young child. You were living in Tribeca. Prior to that, you were where?
You guys were also our go-to source for all things new parenting.
Well, we didn't know what the fuck we were doing. We were just
but you
telling
were at least
you
a year ahead of us.
That's true, I guess. We were a full year?
We were exactly a year.
Okay.
And so we would call you guys on every new thing that happened, like the sleeping. Remember
yes, the sleeping.
So we'd had dinner with you guys. So we were struggling with our son would not fall asleep.
Yes.
And
won't.
We just, exactly 10 years later, that hasn't been solved. And we would not let him fall asleep. I couldn't listen to him cry. And so we struggled with that whole thing. We had dinner with you guys one night. And you and Jason were like, we had just been through this. You need to just let him cry it out. So we go home that night.
So we didn't know what we were saying.
And I said, you know what? My wife Meredith and I are home. We're like, we're going to let Lev just put himself to sleep. So for hours, we're listening. I'm holding my ears. I can't listen to it anymore. And I'm like, we got to do this. We said we were going to do this. And finally, he goes from yelling hysterically to complete silence. And then I'm like, something's wrong. Because nobody goes from yelling to complete silence that quickly. And so,
unless they've been hit over the head with an anvil.
Something went wrong. So she's like, don't go in. I said, I have to. I'm a doctor. I'm nervous. That has never happened.
Yes.
And so I start crawling in the room, army style.
Army crawling into the room.
And I pop up onto into his bed, and I see him, and he looks at me, and he starts crying all over again.
Stop.
It's like, here you go.
Oh my God. So we didn't help at all.
No, 10 years later, he's still.
But we did. I think weren't we the people that told you guys to do the potty training?
Yes.
Which we never did.
Yeah, no, this is perfect for all things that fail. This is the perfect for this podcast.
We kept advising you guys to do things that we never did.
Yeah, so everything we have failed at as parents, we at first.
I still sleep in bed with Sid.
Right, same. And Lev still cries to me at night.
Can't. That is so funny. I really feel badly that I was giving anybody, but that is the thing. Don't you feel like when people have a newborn or a brand new child, or they've been through 6 months of having a baby, they feel like they know everything?
Yeah, look, you can't listen to your parents because that's just what you're supposed to not do.
Yes.
So you turn to friends who know equally as little
as you do,
but are just a little bit ahead of the game.
Right, who are just a couple years ahead of you.
You guys were that for us.
Oh my God, I'm really sorry about that.
But we had great memories.
Hard.
We've had dog birthday parties together.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah,
you guys have. We've had a lot of ups and downs.
We've had a lot of ups and downs. But take me back to before you were in Tribeca, before you met Mare. You went to UMich.
University of Michigan, where I had met Duran, who was my fraternity brother. I'd come back to New York to medical school at NYU. I'd done all my training at NYU. So medical school, surgery, plastic surgery.
Okay.
I had been introduced to Meredith through her cousin, who you know also.
Yes.
Lives out in LA. And and I love Brooke, and she had said, I'm only going to introduce you to my cousin if you're moving to LA. And so I had to stage a whole weekend that I was potentially moving to LA to take a job, knowing full well I was not moving to LA.
And so wait, how long had you? So you were divorced.
Yeah.
How long had you been divorced?
2-3 years.
And had you been dating?
I had been dating, not seriously, and I had met Meredith. Meredith and I met we'd just been talking. It was really like a nice, romantic, old school. We just spoke before we ever met.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I was in New York. She was in LA, which meant it was 2 a.m. for me and 11 at night for her. But we spoke for like 2 months before we actually met in person. It was the current day version of like writing, letters to one another.
And were you burned from like your first divorce? Like, were you ready to be in another relationship? Like, how did you feel about relationships after going through that?
I think, it was a funny saying a friend of mine had told me about finding your second wife first, because you learn so much through that first marriage.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have done that, right? They found their first spouse, or their second spouse first. But I learned a lot through that about,
How old were you when you first got married?
I got married, my first wife and I got married, I was in training.
Okay.
I was living at the hospital. I was buried in medicine.
But young.
20s?
Now it feels
Late
young.
20s, yeah.
20s feel like what? Who would let us do that?
Sure. And professionally, in my world, that's incredibly young.
Yes.
And you're never around for each other. And so,
right.
Some couples have done very well because they get through that.
Yeah.
My ex-wife and I couldn't.
Yes.
But it's a really hard way to start a life together because you're home so little. I mean, medicine is really demanding in that sense. And
completely.
I missed friends' weddings when I was training that I regret to this day. It really took a toll on things I missed out on throughout my life.
Do you feel like you felt like shame about it not working out? Like, did you walk away from that being like, I failed at something? Because your parents are still married.
My parents are still married. Most of my friends who have been married at a young age are still married.
Okay.
I think it took me a while to accept it, but it took me some time because it was anger, and then I think it was sort of appreciation from having gone through it.
And then did you go through a phase of being like, I'm psyched, I'm fucking free?
Yeah, I did. But, I almost, the failure in the marriage was more, I felt like, how did I not see all the things that were not right?
Okay.
It wasn't that, I mean, my ex-wife was no different a year later after we got married, but the dynamic of being married all of a sudden didn't work. And so a lot of that was, I said to myself, what was I not?
What did I miss?
What did I miss, or what was I not prioritizing? And that's what got better the second time. When I first met Meredith, I kind of knew what was going to be important to me, and I had a little bit more forward thinking, which I didn't have in that moment.
Yes. And so were you so when you met her, did you know immediately like I want to marry her, or were you like, oh God, like am I really going to do this again? No,
it was cute. We went to LA. We had dinner with a friend of mine, and she had gotten up. We were at, I want to say, I know our first day was at Il Soleil,
okay,
LA, which I know is closed. But the second night we had dinner at a steakhouse with my good friend from Michigan who lived in LA, and she got up to go to the bathroom, and he turns to me and goes, honestly, like, you just met this girl, like, stop acting like you're effing married to her. And it was obvious to him.
Oh, how funny.
And maybe not me, that we were getting married.
Because you were already just like...
We'd been speaking for months.
Oh, so yeah, one of those.
Yeah, it was really nice to have these late night conversations.
So did you guys have sex right away?
Right away, but...
She's like, fucking Jenny. She's going to make me cut that.
Does that.
She never does that. What? No, it is true. Like, it's so built up at that point. It's like crazy.
So out of character for her. She never did.
She's never did that before. Oh, wow. Oh, and so then you go back to New York.
Actually, it was great. So we met that weekend. And actually, it's a funny story. I'd been invited to a friend's wedding in Miami that I knew was a week after we were going to meet.
Okay.
And he'd called me a month before his wedding. He said, do you want to bring a date to my wedding? And I said, you know what? There's a girl I'm dating. I hadn't told her I hadn't met her, but we've been speaking. And I said, no, there's this girl I'm dating. I'd love to bring her. I called Meredith. I said, look, there's a wedding in Miami the weekend after we're going to meet, and I'd love you to come. And I have to at least say I'm bringing you. And I said, look, let's meet. If it's a disaster, you don't have to come. But if we end up hitting it off, come to Miami. And so we hit it off. She met me in Miami the following weekend, and we had to pretend.
You'd been together for years.
And it was a lot of fun. We'd make up all these stories of how we met each other and how long we've been
Oh,
dating.
how cute.
And it wasn't until years later that I told our friends, we didn't even know each other.
Oh, that's adorable.
So
that's really cute.
It was really fun. We had a really fun time getting to know each other.
And how quickly did you guys get married?
So we had met, I have to figure out the exact kind of timing, but she moved to New York pretty soon after we met, about 6 or 9 months later.
Yeah.
And that is out of character of her that I know to this day. But she trusted me. We hadn't been engaged yet. She moved to New York. We got engaged. We got married. She misses LA. I had to hear about that and still do for years.
Oh, yeah,
that was
that's
a big
true.
part of our friendship, the two
Yes.
of you.
Yeah.
Jason,
She wanted to go
Jason
back.
And I would commiserate on our wives complaining about New York.
And now she's converted.
And now she's happy here. And 3 beautiful kids later.
Wow, that's crazy. But so the friend that set you up, is she just like, I was sort of joking. Like, I mean, I don't think you ever expect when you set somebody up for it to work.
Right. It's just
to that extent.
You never actually think through it. You're just,
No, I just sort of throw like people in the air and like, like they, like if they're on a game show and it's just like things are coming at them. If it works, it works.
But her cousin who set us up was basically like her older sister. So I came in with a full, stamp of approval.
Stamp of approval.
I could not get a higher recommendation from her cousin.
But did you have a hard time when you guys started to like get serious and you got in, just like sort of like your family, like did everybody trust that like this time was going to be different? Or did you feel like you had to get people on board for that?
No, I knew how serious the decision to get married a second time, like, what you're getting into.
Yes.
The worry is she doesn't.
Right.
Like, is she still figuring out what's going on? Or is she going to not think about all the things that might be wrong with me or might not be right for us?
Yes.
But Meredith, she's very mature, and she had sent me, I remember when we first started talking, she sent me a video that a magazine had featured about her grandparents and their 60 years together.
Oh, cute.
And it is the most adorable video of 2 people who really have not only like just found love, but just have lived it together as a couple in a partnership like no other. They get up every morning and they dance together, and they have really found a partnership. And when you see that, like when that's in the DNA and that's who her family is, she's thinking about things in a different way.
I mean, did those people have kids? Because like I can't imagine dancing with Jason in the morning. I'm like, get the fuck out of my life. Like we're so like bitter and resentful in the morning because one of us probably didn't sleep.
Right.
One of us has to get the kids to school. Like when do you get to the let's dance together mornings?
Turn the music on and let's
when does that happen? At what stage?
I'm waiting for that to happen to us, but that's my metric. Like I go to Michigan and visit my in-laws and her grandparents. He still carries her handbag.
What?
Yeah. Like I asked Meredith to carry my wallet and she's like, I don't have room. I'm like, you have a huge bag.
Jason, he's like, can this single key fit in your bag?
You don't know that.
No.
I hold my credit card. I don't have any room in my bag. Yeah. And he's walking around with the handbag.
I love him.
He's a very cute.
They might be an anomaly.
Yeah.
Dancing together every morning?
Met in like grade school or,
But see, they probably had a hard life. I always tell Jason, like if I had there was like an evil force trying to keep us apart or like Nazis were trying to like kill us, like I would just like our sex would be better because I'd feel like we could die at any moment.
Well, you got a ghost in your house.
I need the stakes to be high.
You've created some.
I've created some
You
stakes.
got a ghost living in your house.
I did. Don't turn this interview on me.
No, but that's a huge.
People don't need to know that right now. People don't need to know that right now.
That should make for.
What about your parents?
My parents were high school sweethearts.
Okay.
They're from Israel.
Okay.
They had come here to study. I mean, they really lived the American dream. They came from Israel after the army. My father just wanted to come study at an American university. My mother had worked to put him through school.
Amazing.
And so they really built a life together. They did have that, I think. I don't know about the great sex part that you referred to, but they certainly had the struggle. That they had to
the
live
struggle.
together.
Uh-huh.
And
Is she like in charge of the house? Is she like the matriarch?
My mom.
What's the dynamic there?
They're yes, But I think my parents did very well my father worked a lot
Mm-hmm.
and he was never home,
Okay.
but always made us feel like he was there for us. I think he should write a book on this, like how to get your children to never be home for your kids and get your kids to idolize you.
Like feel your presence, but
Yeah.
don't actually be there.
I feel bad for my mom in that sense because
Yeah.
he was always sort of our idol.
Oh,
And he was never
interesting.
around. But he was so good at when he was there, he was so proud. And he'd come to my football games. He came to one. He thinks he was at all of them.
oh.
I asked him like what my number is.
Is he like Saddam Hussein where he has like a million lookalikes?
Maybe he wasn't there. But he spoke in such a way that he felt like he was so proud when he was there that we always felt it. So he did a very good job at that. And my mom, which was I think tough on her, always had to deal with keeping the house together and taking us everywhere, and then always being blamed for things not working out. And
Oh my God. But was she like an intense Israeli lady?
she's intense. She'll tell you like it is. She has that.
What
As I'm sure is not easy as a daughter-in-law.
were you the like petite prince?
I am.
Were you perfect?
Yes. Still am. Why past tense?
Past tense.
I still am.
Okay,
No,
so
I did no wrong in my mother's eyes. No question.
never.
Yeah.
And was any girl ever good enough for you?
No.
Still not.
She's getting there.
Working
Yeah.
on her. What about like I know that we've talked about this before, but like this idea that like you have no issues, nothing's wrong with
This
you.
is my issue.
That is your
This
issue.
We've talked about this a lot.
Tell me.
Meredith have a field day with this.
Explain this phenomenon.
So I didn't learn this one in medical school, and I'm not sure there's a chapter on this.
Okay.
But Meredith loves therapy. She is very insightful. She knows herself very well.
Yes.
And so she has tried to encourage me. And I did some, when I got divorced, I did some therapy as well. And
Like what, 2 sessions?
it was some couples therapy. And then I did some therapy myself. And my whole thing, which I joke, although maybe it's not so much a joke anymore, is that my issue is I think I have no issues. And so
That's your tragic flaw.
I don't know what diagnosis that is, but I'm sticking with it.
You aren't, what is it? You don't feel like I mean, I'm sure there are things that you beat yourself up constantly. You are a perfectionist.
Correct.
You are neurotic about certain things.
Yeah, I think the things I do well, I don't blame others
Mm-hmm.
for things around me. It's on me.
Yes.
I have a pretty positive outlook on life and my profession, and I enjoy the ride.
Yes.
So I'm not somebody who points the finger.
But you are hard on yourself.
I guess I'm not pointing the finger at myself. I just don't. I don't look for.
But I think you are hard on
issues.
yourself.
Yeah, I think I am. But again, I don't know I can't dissect it.
You can't dissect it.
No.
What? Interesting. So what did your therapist say?
Well,
What does your old therapist say? Because I'm your new therapist.
Initially, it was very I remember I went to a therapy session and this was awful. He had fallen asleep during the session.
What?
Yeah, and I'm like, this is why I don't go to therapy. I'm like waking him up.
No.
No, he had some medical issues that I learned about later, which I felt terrible about. But I remember going to this therapy session saying like, this is what.
Narcolepsy?
No, he had some
Stroke?
Yeah,
He had a
some
stroke
health
during the
issues. He had,
session?
a mini stroke. He'd been struggling with one, and he had fallen asleep.
And then
I
the
was like,
mini
this is
stroke,
crap.
another one happened
So
during
I'm
the
getting
session.
therapy, and here I am diagnosing a medical problem.
Oh my God. You're
Yeah.
resuscitating your
Yes.
therapist? So what did he say? What did you walk away with?
You've been through this. My childhood was great. I don't have anything to point to. So if there's either it's dug deep or I had a very nice childhood. My parents were very loving. They were very supportive.
Yes.
Were they perfect? Absolutely not. But I'm okay with, we were talking about this earlier. I'm okay with imperfection when it comes to raising kids.
And do you feel like that you, as a parent, like, do you ever feel like you are parenting to sort of your own stuff?
Meaning what?
Meaning like when you're, how would you describe yourself as a parent? Are you the good cop? Are you the bad
I'm
cop?
definitely the good cop.
Are you your mom? Are you your dad?
Good cop. I'm definitely my dad.
Uh-huh.
And again, I don't know if it's I blame generational changes. It may just be me justifying how we're parenting our children. I don't discipline. My wife gets all the credit for disciplining our kids. And so,
Interesting.
yeah, we'll see how, we'll see how my kids grow up. But I think when I look back, I hope that, all the love I'm giving them really is what prevails. I think where I may fall short is really coming down hard on them.
What's the hardest you've ever come down?
Oof. Punishment wise. Yeah, I was going to say, like last night, I took all of my son's Nerf guns. I'm sure he's getting them back today. Like, I don't.
You already asked them back.
He's home shooting the Nerf guns at my pictures of me saying, I can't believe my dad took my Nerf guns last night.
Where do you think, like, when you think about like failure and you think about your life, like what comes up for you? What are the things that you think, oh God, like that really changed the course of my life? Or like I had something happen that just like redirected me.
I don't know if fortunately I've been very lucky to not have very much tragedy around me. The marriage was a failure and a blessing because I'm incredibly happily married now. And I learned a lot from that.
Yes.
I think there's something, and again, I'm blaming my profession and it may just be me, but as a physician, as a surgeon, when you commit to that, you lose a lot on your personal life.
Yeah.
And so I think when I look back on my 20s, the things I wish I did differently, like I missed so many special moments for friends and people around me. I mean, there's a friend of mine to this day who I couldn't make his wedding and he's okay with it. But every time I see him, I said, look, that is one of the biggest things that I missed out on when I look back, because you feel like this sense of, I have to be at the hospital. I mean, you grew up around physicians and a nurse and you know that commitment, but you think it's an all like ending scenario if you can't be at the hospital. And when you look back, or me at the stage I'm at, looking back, it doesn't matter. Everybody would have been fine. Certainly if there were emergencies, I would have stayed back for it. But I was a medical student. I was a resident.
Grinding.
Yeah, NYU would have been just fine had I not been taking call that weekend. Yeah. And so you feel this maybe inflated sense of, importance, maybe this intimidation that culturally you can't miss these kind of things. Mm-hmm. It's getting better in medicine. I think it's getting better in a lot of professions. But I failed at some friendships because I couldn't, prioritize those things.
Are you a workaholic?
Yeah.
Like you can't turn it off.
I cannot. I wish I could.
Yeah, it kills me. I can't either. Even when I want to be there, I'm not always mentally there.
I have a weekend. Every year we spend a weekend together, 15 plastic surgeons around the country. And we started this a few years ago. And initially the intent was to talk about our professions and talk about how to kind of the newest procedure and how to offer the latest and greatest. And what it's become is more of a lifestyle weekend. And it's one of the most valuable weekends I have.
Oh, wow.
Year, which is all of us getting together and saying, you know what? It doesn't matter. If our phones are off for a couple hours and we're home, nothing's going to be missed. And this past trip, we had a professor from NYU come down and talk about this, like mindfulness and to be present. And it's been really enlightening for me to get home and take the phone and just put it away.
Yeah.
Because if it's near me, I know what's going to happen. And to really be engaged with my family.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'm going to be able to undo the workaholic kind of nature. But I think I've gotten so far in terms of really trying to be mindful when I'm around my family, friends, moments like that. What
do you think they're going to take you to therapy for one day? And you're going to go, what?
Yeah.
Me? Who, me?
I mean, Lev will probably come back to you when you told me to let him fall asleep.
Yeah, he'll be like that evil lady.
Yeah, I'll blame it on you guys, you and Jason. He'll think back to that. Maybe the work thing.
That you were gone too much?
Yeah. I'm really trying to channel what my father is sort of like, when I'm there, I'm there.
Yes. Yes.
I'm the dad on the sideline screaming. Yeah. Not screaming, like being proud and excited for my son and my daughter. We had a dance recital. And so I try to compensate with that stuff.
When you're
I'm not going to be home. I will never be home that much. It's just not who I am.
Yeah, you can't.
No. And I wish I could, but I chose a profession that requires me to be present.
And how did you choose this profession?
So I'd come to NYU. NYU had an incredibly prestigious department of plastic surgery. I knew nothing about plastic surgery. I'd come there thinking I'd be a cardiac surgeon. I'd spent a year in Boston. I don't know if you know this. I lived in Boston for a year working with the first person to ever perform what's called gene therapy for heart disease.
Okay.
So you're injecting genes into people's veins and arteries to try and grow new blood vessels. And I was certain I was going to be a cardiac surgeon. I'd come back to NYU. I had rotated at the department there. There was somebody by the name of Joseph McCarthy who was the then chairman, and he was really influential. I mean, I owe him a tremendous amount. And he had done a lot of the stuff I do currently, which is reconstructive work, in addition to cosmetic work. And he opened up this whole world of what the beauty of what we do as plastic surgeons, everything from children to the elderly, the artistic side, the reconstructive side. And so I got exposed to this wonderful world of plastic surgery.
So, yeah, that's what I always wonder. So you weren't like, did you ever draw? Like, were you artistic in that way? Like, I always feel like plastic surgeons have like the good ones have like this added like piece of like almost, I don't know. There's like, not that all surgeons there's not artistry,
Right.
but like there is like with plastic surgery, I don't know.
No, there is. And everyone always asks that. The truth is it's to a point. I mean,
Mhm.
we interview certain trainees and applicants who come through, and they always like to say, well, I sketch, I draw. And you're like, well, there's a little more than just having
Totally.
An interest in art.
Yes.
And there's certainly the creativity. There's certainly the being nimble and thinking out of the box. But for me, I don't know if it was the artistic side. It was more the variety of what we could do. Like that really appealed to me. I didn't want to do the same operation every day. And I have to say, like, one of the things I love is every single day, right? Anywhere from your boobs to
my mom's lip.
Yeah, exactly.
Her vagina lip. I'm just kidding. Her real lip.
Is how just the scope of what we do, and it's wonderful. But certainly, I love I love photography. You certainly know about my music.
Yes,
my love for music.
Exactly. Yeah,
my failed music career. That's another one.
Your failed music career as a drummer.
Yeah,
which
still
is
failing.
Kind of coming back. I mean, you are playing clubs again.
Yeah, there's a band in Greenwich that I didn't make the cuts for, so
which kills me. It kills me. I do love that.
It's a great one. So that was my introduction to the
funny.
suburbs. But there's still hope.
You auditioned and they said no.
Lenny Kravitz still is asking me if I'll play with him, so there's still hope.
So okay, so there are surgeries obviously that are the same surgery all the time. There's you get like the boobs, you get like the facelifts, you get all these things, but you also have done some cases that are sort of insanely complicated.
Right.
Will you talk about that? I don't want to like you get into that. Like, how did you end up
separating twins?
Yeah.
I mean, that was a wild one, right? I've never seen conjoined twins.
Yeah.
I've never read about conjoined twins. Like this was
not in medical school.
Right. There's no textbook on that. There's no paper on that. And in addition to doing cosmetic work, as you know, I spend time at Montefiore doing craniofacial work, which is reconstruction of the face. And there's a neurosurgeon who I worked with very closely who had done this 2 other times around the world, separated boys who were attached at the head. And it's such a great story. I remember I was walking in the hospital and he stops me. He says, there are 2 brothers who are flying in from Chicago to see us. You're going to meet them tomorrow. But he didn't tell me for what.
Oh my God.
So next thing you know, I come to the office the next day and these 2 boys come in who are attached at the head. And it's
wow.
And it's so Jim Goodrich was his name. He passed away. It's so him because he's so unfazed by all of this.
Right. He just doesn't even care to mention that.
Yeah. And
small detail.
Thanks for the referral. You left out a small detail, right? These boys, these brothers are attached.
Oh my God.
And so it was this moment of, all right, great, we're going to separate these conjoined twins. CNN was interested in following us around. Then it was going to be this wonderful story. And I was so excited about all of that until I realized that I may be famous for not separating two kids, but for killing two children who are not going to be able to survive this operation.
Yeah.
It's incredibly risky. And so it was an amazing year of like bringing in all this technology I'd done research on and all of these different aspects of my life coming up to that point is how are we going to do this successfully? And to bring it full circle, it was wonderful. This family had moved from Chicago. They had insurance, but they didn't have the means to move here. And I had just done a facelift on a woman from Palm Beach who had learned about this. And she said, let me pay for them to live in New York for the year.
Oh, wow.
And so she had paid for their apartment for the year. And she said, let me help support them.
Oh, that's amazing.
So that, I mean, that's the beauty of what I do, right? A woman who I'd taken care of, who was happy with her facelift,
Yeah.
who wanted to help and bring this family here. And she did. And we did it. And these two incredible kids survived.
But
they're now our son's age. I mean, it's amazing to get these pictures of these.
Okay, but get into like standing there, like give us a taste of what was that like when you scrubbed in that day. You still had no idea if it was going to work.
So we had the deal with CNN was they were not to report anything until we knew that this was going to be a success.
Okay.
And so Sanjay Gupta was there. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for Sanjay, wonderful surgeon and a wonderful correspondent. He came and he was there with us. He was scrubbed in with us. He really was front lines. And at some point during the course of the day, I took a break and I get out and my phone has a few thousand messages saying you're on CNN.
Oh, so they jumped the gun.
And I was like, wait a second.
Fuck these guys.
This may not work.
Uh-huh.
And so here we are. So now all of a sudden everybody's watching live, from New York. This is going on.
And you're how old?
At this point,
Yeah.
This is going back, 8, 9 years. I'm not that far into my career.
Yeah.
This is
scary.
Only a few years out, really scary. And at one point, so we think it's going to go okay. And then I remember one of the boys we think is going to be fine and one is not. And we step outside and we have the microphones on. And so I'm looking at Goodrich, who's the neurosurgeon. I said, we don't need a hot mic moment here. Like everything, take it all off and let's make sure we can talk privately. And we go to a separate room and he says, I don't know if we can do this. And I was like, Jim,
we're already doing it.
The whole world's watching. We're doing this.
Oh my God.
He said, I don't think this is going to not end well.
Yeah.
And there's an amazing moment. So we go back in the room and we start looking at all these 3D models we have. The radiologist is in the room. So imagine in medicine, the idea of a radiologist being in the operating room is a very foreign concept, right? They sit in their back room.
Yeah.
They look at their screen. They're not a part of this. And we start trying to figure out how we're going to safely do things. And then there's a biomedical engineer. So what a biomedical engineer means is someone who has no medical training, okay? She, from Colorado, a woman named Katie Weimer, and she had helped design the 3D prints. So she knows computer engineering. She doesn't know medicine, but she had spent so many hours putting this all together. And she's so appropriate, and she knows to not say anything. And at one point she said, can I say something? We said, absolutely. And then she starts telling us, hey, I think this is actually what's happening and this is where you need to be. And so she starts saying, looking on the screen,
this is where you guys should cut?
Yeah, this is where I think you need to be. And it was such an incredible moment for me because here's somebody with no medical training who had spent, when I think I spent time thinking about these kids, she has spent 100x the amount of hours that I had spent. And she's telling us what to do. And so eventually, like all those different specialties and those talented people coming together and saying, all right, this is what we need to do. And so finally, we were able to do this. And
when you say finally we were able to do this, you mean finally we were able to like make the cut that we needed to make?
The problem with that situation and the McDonald's twins, which was that they shared the blood vessels, not just shared their brain.
Uh-huh.
So all of a sudden, if they're sharing each other's nutrients, right? They're sharing that's what's keeping them alive. So if you were to all of a sudden say, I'm going to take this and give this to one child, is the other child going to have enough of a blood flow, right? Enough of an engine to make it through the operation. That's what was so scary. So when we would start to take all of a sudden or divides, one of the kids'
One would
blood
just
vessels-
deteriorate.
Exactly. The other
immediately.
one's blood pressure would all of a sudden plummet.
Hmm.
And that's where this whole roller coaster became so difficult.
So how long was this surgery?
27 hours.
Oh my God.
It was wild. But I mean, you know this world. It was actually amazing because there were so many union employees filming
That
there
they'd
were so many
leave.
rules. Well, you had to have cots, you had to have food, you had like so
Oh
the
my
entire
God. They're like,
OR
where's craft service?
Right, this was the best day in the OR. This is the easiest day in the OR I've ever had.
Oh yeah.
Right. You
Totally.
had a certain break, you had food,
Yeah.
coffee, I could lay down and take a nap.
Oh my God.
And I will tell you that the time that they were separated was 2:11 a.m.
Oh wow,
And
that's cool.
the writer, for CNN, we all sort of were clapping and everybody was having this like amazing moment. And he says, you know something, that was the moment that 2 became 1 and 1.
Oh my God. That makes me want to cry. Were you just like bawling your eyes out?
I think there was so much like,
Adrenaline.
that I was just so happy that we made it through.
Oh my God.
I just wanted them to survive. Now, I'll say this. 5 years later, I did it again in Brazil.
Yes.
And this is the difference in culture. In New York, I went home, I slept, and I prayed that these kids were going to survive. When we did this in Brazil, it was straight from that to the party in the town because they had prepared this entire, they were like,
And everyone was going nuts. Was that an easier
party.
case?
yeah, when it's not your back, when it's not in your own backyard and you're there just to help.
And was that,
advise.
and are both sets of twins sort of thriving now?
Wonderfully well. Yeah.
Wow.
And the beauty of social media. I mean, I get to see these kids grow up. I still speak to the parents. I get updates.
Is one doing better than the other?
The first set of twins from New York, but that was always the case. One always struggled, and the other one is progressing further.
Yes.
Some is delayed. So the one in Chicago, the family from Chicago, one is a bit delayed.
Yeah.
The other is doing, I got a video of him playing Little League baseball. He's doing great.
Oh my
And
God.
the girls in Brazil are totally normal.
You would never know.
Would never know it.
Like they'll tell people one day and nobody will
Yeah.
believe them. If it were me and my sister, I'd be like, guys, listen, I'm
Let
the
her go.
stronger. Let her go. Give me the nutrients. I'm going to be fine.
Yeah.
God, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
But separating people from the head, it just feels like,
So that's something like as a plastic surgeon and relative to everything else I do, is something I never could have dreamed of being a part of.
no.
That was a really stressful but exciting time for me.
And it was reconjoining my twins, my boobs that are now twins. They never were before. Like
Equally
as
stressful.
as
Basically,
exciting.
Also on CNN Live.
CNN page 6.
Yeah, same. It was basically I was
Same.
like, Jenny, don't tell anyone. And
Yeah.
before we know it's okay. And
Before you knew it, I was
Right.
like naked in your OR. That is such an insane story, though.
Yeah.
But like in terms of complications as a surgeon, I'm sure you've had so many times where you're in the OR just going like, oh fuck.
But that one, well, so I'll bring it to the twins and I'll bring it full circle to operating on you. The twins, so it wasn't smooth sailing after. They
Yeah.
had problems.
Yeah.
And I was about a week after, and again, the camera crew's following us, and one of the boys had an infection, which meant I
Okay.
had to take some of the bone out and some of the reconstruction.
Ugh.
And I was so resistant to do this because I was letting the media and the idea that this was all public get in the way. And I remember I called my good friend, my partner, Evan Garfine, and I said, what do you think? And he said, well, what would you do if it wasn't being televised? And I said, you're right. I hung up.
I'd redo it.
Of course. It's OR, no questions. And so
Yeah.
it was helpful to have a close friend reset and say, what would you do?
Yes.
And so, let's bring this back to you. Last week in the operating room, same sort of thing. Like, it's very hard when the stakes are high. And for me, the media, I don't mean the stakes are high in that sense for you. Mostly as a close friend. Because I've operated on a lot of friends and family. And it's you
But
really
I'm
have
your
to,
favorite.
of course, the most important. And you have to keep reminding yourself, like, do the same thing. I mean, that's where problems happen. If you let the other things get in the way, like don't let the noise
Yes.
distract you or change how you would think. And so do the same thing you would do, this no matter who it was.
Yes.
And so like we had a lot of fun with you and Peggy, who was a sport about it. But I remember when you went to sleep in the OR and the phone was still going. And I said,
my camera was still rolling.
yeah, I was like, erase whatever Jenny was about to just post. And now it's go time. And now it's time to be serious.
Yes. But did you
And
take
you've done
funny
great.
pictures of me like unconscious and like silly hats or anything like that
No,
that I could have?
And my nurse tried to. And I
Oh,
was like,
I would love those.
Yeah. So
Just like a few like weekend at Bernie's type of
Right.
moments with you guys.
we can still do those and pretend.
Okay,
it's
okay.
surgery, but the reality was when it was, and that's me being a professional, like when it's go time and when it's surgery, and everybody knew that. It was
Yes.
fun until it was serious. And until you were like safely in the recovery room. And, fortunately you've done well and you haven't had any issues, but there's always the 1% chance that you might have. And had you been in that, group, I would have reminded myself, like those twins, like forget that it's Jenny, forget that it's a close friend,
Yeah.
forget that she is televising or, putting
Yes.
this, on Instagram Live. Do the same thing you would do for anybody else. And you have to keep reminding yourself that, especially as a plastic surgeon. We get ourselves in trouble. We as a specialty, when we start letting the other stuff get in the way.
The fame get in the way? Like, are you motivated by fame?
No.
Do you want?
And I don't want to know who people are before they come to the office. I've gotten myself in trouble not knowing who people are.
Yeah.
I'd rather know that. I don't want anyone in my office looking at like background checks of who people are coming to the office. Like they're just anybody else, because that's
Yeah.
where things get in trouble. That's where Joan Rivers.
You think they just like couldn't say no to her?
I think they weren't doing things in the normal way that they do it. I think they were.
But don't you think I have a way of like doing that too, where I'm like, I don't know, guys. Like it is just, maybe we should just cut. Like I feel like, not with you, but don't you think I could get myself in like a bad place by like Joan Riversing somebody into like doing things they shouldn't do to me?
Yeah. By the way, you were going the other direction, if you recall, a week before. Maybe we don't.
Yes.
Maybe we do.
Yes. No, I was vacillating, especially on the boobs, because I felt like I couldn't see the boobs. Like, I don't think you can really see the boobs on yourself the way that like my mom, who said to me, like, you should fix your boobs.
Right. So do you remember the text you sent me? I don't know if you called or you texted me, you said, should I not do the boobs?
Yeah.
And then what was the other one you said where you were going to hate me?
Should I take out the implants?
Oh, that's what it was. Right. Which I get. You want your implants out like a lot of women do.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean it's an easy thing to do. And it doesn't mean you're going to like what comes out the other end. And you said, should we just take this out? And I said, you're going to hate yourself and you're going to hate me. And I don't want either one of those things to happen.
Yes.
And so like, even when you came back and said, all right, well, let's do the other stuff and let's not do the breasts. And I said to myself, if this was anybody else, I would, it's time to lay down the hammer.
Yeah.
And say,
make her do it.
Yeah. This is what you need.
And I'm so happy because now, guys, I look in the mirror and I'm like, whose boobs are those? They're not mine. My boobs have never known each other. They've always lived on opposite sides of my chest. And now somehow they're conjoined twins.
Right. And then so now,
in the best possible
by the way,
way.
add in, we're going live with this.
Yes.
You're a close friend. Your husband's a close friend. So at some point, Jason's like, I think it's time you stop looking at my wife's boobs.
Oh my
Like,
God, that's funny.
When
that's
is the
funny.
post-op appointments officially no longer?
Post-ops are for like 6
Yeah,
years.
like at some point it's there.
Wait, okay, two things. One, I think that is so funny because so I originally, you and I got into a bit of a fight.
Which?
I feel like we should tell people. We got into a bit of a fight because when I initially went in to have my boobs like quasi lifted, I wouldn't say it was a full lift, but like whatever, worked on post children, I was afraid to come to you because of our friendship.
Right.
And also because Jason was like, what? Like he's going to do your boobs? I don't know. It was also like that dynamic. And then I didn't, you guys, I might have made a mistake. And this is me coming like,
Was
just
it a
like,
fight where we really, was it a?
No, Oren, I've never heard you so mad.
Oh yeah.
So I'm just telling the viewers and you can listen along.
Because I have no issues, so I can handle it.
He has no issues, guys. This guy's like the only normal fail-free human I've ever
I
interviewed.
actually think you're right now that
He flipped the fuck out on me because I went to like somebody who like was very like robotic and I didn't have an emotional like relationship with. And I was like, okay, Jason will be fine with this. This isn't somebody that we know. There's no relationship here. I'm just going to like bite the bullet, do it in and out. And I'm not going to say anything. I'm not even going to bring it up to Oren, which was my bad. I probably should have. So I get a call.
I think that's what it was.
It was.
That I didn't know.
It was.
Right. Okay.
And so I get a call from Oren, who is pissed, genuinely flipping out, pissed, saying, as your friend, how did you go do this without telling me? Even if you didn't want to use me, even if you like hated, like you thought that like my sewing was terrible, like he really like went like so deep, like started to like dismantle himself. Like, named all these issues that I could have possibly been having about him that I had never thought of ever. And he's like, no, but I'm a surgeon. This is what I do. And as your friend, like you should have talked to me first. I would have helped you through the whole thing. I would have consulted with you. I would have like helped you find somebody if you felt uncomfortable with me. How could you have done this and not like told me?
No, we should settle this now.
Yeah.
This is good. We should.
Yeah.
But you're bringing up a really important issue, and this is something that's very hard as a plastic surgeon, and particularly for me. So friends are stressful to operate on. In some ways, I hate it.
Yes.
At the same time, it's very awkward when friends don't want to come to you, and so it's very easy for people to say, it's too close for comfort. And I don't want anyone to ever come to me because they feel like they have to. And I don't want anyone to feel bad that they didn't come to me. Meredith and I talk about this every week. We have another friend. Now I have friends who come to me after they had surgery.
Oh, like fix this.
Or what do you, this happens not all that, uncommon or seldom, which is somebody will go, not tell me they're having surgery. They'll go to somebody and they'll say, hey, I had surgery last week. I didn't want to tell you. I was uncomfortable coming to you, but I'm having an issue. What do you think? And at that point, it's call your surgeon. Like, I'm not going to be the person to all of a sudden help you. Right? Like a week later. So for you, it was more, you didn't tell me ahead of time, which was fine. But then it was, what do you think now? And what are the issues now? And at that point, I'm like, you could have, but this, not one who's shy about talking to me about what you want to do.
Totally. But this was before I even like had any like realization that I needed to have.
So
things fixed.
Should I have been pissed? Was I justified to get pissed?
You were totally justified. No, you were totally justified.
But I wouldn't.
This was like days after I had done it, maybe. And you're like, the fuck? You didn't tell me.
You would have had no bigger advocate than I would have gone to your consults with you. I would have told you exactly.
Yes. And that's true. And that's why the coddling and like being a doctor's daughter, I can't believe I didn't do it the first time. I think I was like, well, this was also during the pandemic. So like the world had been like, we were all rattled, but it was also, I think, the fact of like it being specifically my boobs and Jason being like, really? You're going to like just go to our close friends? Like, am I like seeing his wife's boobs? Like, is this kind of weirdness of like, we're just going to be at like dinner together and I know that he just saw your boobs. And like,
I think Jason has asked at dinner before.
And now he like makes it light of it. But also like, I thought, what if I'm not happy? And then like, what if I hate Oren afterwards? Like, what if something happens and it makes me like, it like does make me go like,
no, it definitely, it is risky.
That's risky.
It's definitely risky. But I think for people listening who are in this situation at times, have a friend who's a physician, like you have somebody who can at least advise.
Yes.
And I think that you should take advantage of that.
100%.
Because you have somebody who knows the inside, the industry.
Yes.
So I actually don't think most surgeons would be offended by you going to you in a general sense, going to somebody else.
Yes.
But I think you have somebody who can advise you on who is well respected, who would do a good job for you.
Yes. Well, and I have this fear of like dying on the table. Like, I know it's insane. I mean, I also like, I'm afraid of being abducted by aliens, killed by an Uber driver. I have a lot of fears. Haunted houses. You brought it up earlier. You already outed me on that. Yeah. But I also was like, what if I die on the table and then Jason is going to like have to know like that like, he's going to blame Oren forever. And I'm like, I've caused a whole rift. But then I decided the only person I would want to kill me is Oren.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. And that was really comforting when I got that message the morning of surgery. Somebody sends me something and says,
but it's true.
yeah, he just wrote this. And all I see is like, if I die, the blood is on his hands.
Oh, yeah. If I die, the blood is on Oren's hands. But God, thank God it's on Oren's hands. Because like, what if it's a stranger? That's boring.
Yeah, it's so now you know how.
At least you could like attend like at least one of my kids' recitals. I know you wouldn't be there for most of them because you don't give a shit. But like, I'm just kidding.
I mean, but does your kid go to sleep on his own yet? Because that's maxed
no,
out. Yeah.
No, that part of your life's maxed out.
This is a like insight into how stressful it is to operate on close friends.
Yeah,
it is
because you're thinking about all of that the whole time. Was it as hard to operate on my mom?
Botox once, and that was the end of our doctor-patient relationship. Yeah.
Why she bruised, and she was like, "I'm never going back."
What did I do differently from the other?
Stop it.
It's perfect.
I like your wife said to you when I don't know what you were like correcting on her, and she said, "This is the biggest day of your life."
Yeah, it is.
I love that.
Biggest is code for this is.
Yeah.
This is the most defining.
This is the most defining moment of your life. And she asked me today, actually, I was on the phone with her. She said, when you went in, did you say to Oren, this is the biggest day of your life? And I said, no, I should have. I implied it.
Yeah.
I just implied.
It was a fun day, but it was a serious day. And that's the key to what I do.
Yeah.
It's having fun with it and being serious about it.
Yes. So what do you want to do next?
I feel like
you have this beautiful new office in Tribeca.
We are trying to create something like a place that is a destination for plastic surgeons.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't exist.
Okay.
And we're all our own little egos on our own little islands. And I think what I'd like to bring back is this sense of like plastic surgery innovation that only exists when we all do it at the same place. And so my whole goal for what I built downtown was to have other plastic surgeons there as well, because that's where we all get better.
Come in and out like pop-ups, or how do you mean?
To use the operating rooms as their home. The idea was a Soho house for surgeons.
Oh, wow.
It's their home also.
Oh, so they could like book the OR and use it.
Yeah, but we're all around each other because we could convince ourselves or our staff how great our results look. Right. But in reality, you're judged by your peers. That's where social media has been great.
That's fun.
Because you cannot, I know there's the editing and photoshopping, et cetera, but there is you've lifted the hood now of what's happening in your office. You cannot hide your results.
And you can't.
No. And I love that.
What about, I know we have to wrap up. I'm right. I can sense it. But I have to ask you about the fat under the eye that you put in for me.
Yeah.
And like just injecting fat in general. Like, do you think that's like the next?
I think fat has been the single biggest paradigm shift in my whole profession.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's saying a lot.
Yeah. I have not seen, and I'm now at this, 25 years? I have not seen. Forget the radio frequency devices. Forget all of the
fucking lasers.
Machines.
Yeah.
I mean, those are important, but there hasn't been like an innovation or a change in that. The idea that you can add volume has had the single most significant impact in what we do.
Really?
Because 10 years ago, if you told somebody you were going to add fat in their face, they would have walked out the door.
Even though 10 years ago, people were using filler to fill marionette lines to fill.
But filler goes beneath the skin. Filler is just for those fine lines. Filler doesn't add structure.
Okay.
Right? And filler is artificial.
Yes.
And
it moves.
It moves. And filler repeated treatments of filler does not help the skin.
Yes.
It only hurts the skin. Right? Fat, which is your own stem cells, which has your own growth factors, that helps. And so think about something that you can add structure to, you lose it over time, and it makes your skin quality better. There's nothing like that. And so I don't think people appreciate it enough. The problem is a lot of what we see where we think it's overdone plastic surgery and people look awful is overdone filler. It's not overdone fat. So we have to sort of re-educate everybody where when you have fat and it's in the right place,
yes,
it's a wonderful thing. It doesn't cause the overdone look. That's
Would you
filler.
do it?
Of course. Filler to my own face.
Fat.
I can't physically. I need people to do. I can inject myself with Botox, etc. But I think fat for me, for sure.
Do you think you'll get a facelift one day?
It's a good question. I was laughing about this. I don't know. I don't think I have no issues. I don't think
I'll never need one.
Yeah. But I may.
God, I love it. I think we have to end on that. Guys, Dr. Oren Tepper, his new office is 456 Greenwich. I don't know where I was. I was on drugs, guys. Where was I?
Yeah, do you remember coming?
I remember coming. I don't remember leaving.
497 Greenwich.
497 Greenwich Street.
Yeah.
Book an appointment today. Please tell everyone there that I sent you. I want credit. Oren, thank you so much for coming.
This was fun.
I'm so glad we had these moments.
Many more to come.
I mean, nothing about you would be wrong if we did it again.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have failed at this interview if I asked you to do it again. Just, to be clear.
And it won't be a therapy session.
It won't.
Okay. Then I'm coming back.